Brilliance Audio presents Letters to a Stranger by Mercedes Pinto Maldonado, translated by Jenny Erickson, performed by Cynthia Farrell. After a gap of 15 years, most people would feel quite emotional, returning to the house where they were born and grew up. The simple act of opening the front door after so much time and coming face to face with such a significant section of their past, years in which their personality developed and shaped the rest of their life, would be enough to make the majority of folk take a deep breath before stepping through. Well, not so far as I was concerned. I crossed that threshold with blinding indifference, as if it were nothing more than heading into the supermarket to pick up a sandwich on a night off from the restaurant. I was just annoyed at the interruption to my life and the inconvenience of going away right now, just before the peak tourist season in London. My business needed all employees on hand, and my absence was a problem. The news came, and I didn't have time to stop and think. The preparations for such an unexpected trip kept me busy right through to the last minute. But once on board the plane, with 2 hours of inactivity stretching ahead, my mind suddenly cleared. The seat to my right was unoccupied, and the novel I'd been glued to for the past 3 nights lay forgotten on the bedside table back home in my London flat. I didn't fly often, and takeoff always makes my stomach lurch, so I tried to keep my mind busy, which felt strange, alien, more from the enforced idleness than from the unusual situation. I was used to managing every moment of my day with meticulous efficiency, making best use of my time, and having nothing to do made me anxious. I searched for distraction on the other side of the window, but London and all of its magnificence lay hidden beneath a dense blanket of endless dreary grey. She had died. My mother had left this world less than 48 hours earlier, and I felt nothing. Only irritation because this was not the best time to head off traveling, especially to Spain, absolutely the last place I wanted to go. The burial had taken place this morning. Condolences had been offered, and the mourning clothes returned to the back of the wardrobe, so the only task that remained now was to deal with her belongings, half of which suddenly belonged to me. Teresa, the woman who had kept our house throughout my mother's marriage, had told me on the phone that my sister Yolanda had been living for some time in Australia and was unable to come to Madrid, and so it fell to me to put in an appearance and handle all the usual matters in such times, choosing which goods and personal items of the deceased, my mother, the distinguished Doña Alberta, should be thrown away, and which should be sold or kept, so the property could be put on the market as soon as possible. This was going to be enormously unpleasant, but that was all. I'd never had the slightest desire to return, or even been tempted to call. Any curiosity as to what might be taking place in the house where I grew up had been non-existent since my departure. In my first months of freedom, I hadn't even dared answer my phone, in case my sister or mother had somehow got hold of my number. At that point in my life, my only priority was to forget. I'd left because I was suffocating, convinced I would go mad if I stayed even one more day. I climbed out of the taxi with my single suitcase. I didn't think I was going to be staying any longer than absolutely necessary, and at the start of summer, light clothes were all I needed. Teresa was waiting for me, and she opened the door right away, having heard the sound of the car. She was exactly the same as I remembered, and although a few white strands were beginning to appear at the temples, her hair still shone black, clean and silky, tied back in a low bun, which looked as though it hadn't moved in all the years gone by. She still wore a delicate flowered scarf knotted around her neck, the 2 ends resting gently on her chest like the wings of a butterfly on a flower. Her lips remained slightly pink, looking as moist and cool as I remembered them. She still wore the woolen jumper, dark knee-length skirt, and shoes of a nun, and her gaze even now was deep and steady, the gaze of someone whose heart shines out through their eyes. Teresa was one of those rare souls who can hug you without even touching you. I had told her 1,000 times over that the only source of kindness in Alberta's house was the person who stood in her own black-laced shoes,